like we're doing here, going in Mogalarti, that means you're self-realized. Because if you realize you were the body, you'd sleep till 6:30, right? Yes? When we were brahmacharis, we took cold showers. Or not necessarily freezing, but we didn't take hot showers in the morning. So that means we had some realization we're not the body. Otherwise we couldn't do that. And when you go on Sankirtan, distributing books, sometimes it's really difficult. People offend you, and so many people are not interested. We wouldn't do it unless we realized we're spirit soul. So Prabhupada's saying, you're going out, you couldn't go out every day unless you realized that you're spirit soul servant of Krishna. So in that sense, the ultimate self-realization is you engage in devotional service, and when you're engaged in devotional service, you're self-realized. Isn't that nice? Yeah, so we can say, or I can say to you, I could say to everyone at Mangalarti, you all realize you're not the body, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Right? Even though when you woke up, you thought, oh, I'm a Russian woman, that was your first thought. But you wouldn't have gotten up that early unless you had some realization, I'm spirit soul and I have spiritual activity. So when you look at the ramifications of not identifying with the body, you realize how much we do identify with the body. Yes? I was just on vacation with my family, and we were in a tourist spot, and everybody takes pictures in the tourist spot. And so, like affirming that they're the body, And the place we were at, everybody was dressed really well. So that was also affirming, that I want to look good and be appreciated. And so it's so human, it's so natural, it's so difficult to transcend it, isn't it? Like, if you're a certain nature, it comes with a body. If you're a woman of a certain nature, it comes with a body. It would be awkward if we were so detached from the body, we couldn't associate with it. And so it can be discouraging to think, I don't have a full understanding about the body, but we actually do. So that's something positive. I have something else very positive. Would you like to hear? Yeah. Would you like to hear? Yeah. This is really interesting. I don't know if this has ever been explained to you. But as you know, the soul is very small, right? But when you go back to the spiritual world, you have a spiritual body. It's not your soul with a spiritual body. You are that body. Did you know that? The soul is, because if you have a spiritual body, you are spiritual. So why you have a material body, which is different from yourself. But if you're spiritual and you have a body, then that body is you. So the soul expands, that little soul expands into this form. So if you're having trouble just with this idea that I'm not the body and I really want to be the body, don't worry, when you go back to Godhead, you will be the body. So you don't have to worry about that. You won't have to worry about that. You'll be the soul, but your body will be spiritual, so it won't be you and the body, it's just you, your identity, that form. Now, you want to do something a little interesting? Yes. Raise your hand if you're tired. Okay, let's try to say yes in a way that wakes us up. You want to do something interesting? Yes! This is the hard time of the day, this is the graveyard shift, 4 o'clock, 4:30. All that red you ate starts to swirl around your mind. Or did that already happen at 3 o'clock? Yeah. You're over it now. Okay. Yeah. So imagine I gave you a deck of cards. And there are 52 different people on cards. And I said, put the cards out in front of you. Well, let's imagine we're on the floor. We all have space. We put out 52 cards. And I say, look at all these people on these cards that has names. And then I say, those were your 52 last lives. Would that be interesting? Yeah. Like I have connection with someone who knows all your lives, and we got pictures of all those people, and you're just looking at it. Would that be weird? But that's reality. Those people that we know? Those people who you were in your last life. Do we know that? No, you don't. I mean, unless you have some psychic power, right? Ordinarily, you wouldn't know. You know, John Smith, born in 1929 in Detroit, Michigan, used to work in. Yeah, previous life, used to, you're a man, but then there's the women, which is even more weird. Or you're a woman, and I was a man, you're this little woman, like 5 feet tall, and then the last life you were like a weightlifter, 6.5 feet, football player. It would be weird. But that's the reality. Of course, we can't remember that. But the scripture is trying to stimulate it. Have any of you ever been to an astrologer who told you what you were in your last life? That's also interesting. In your last life, you were this person, you lived here, you did this. Because we only identify with this life, isn't it? So to hear about another life who we were, even though we know that, we're not this body. It's so difficult. Isn't it? Not to identify with. Yes? So I would say that for us as bhakti yogis, we don't have to worry so much, because if you follow Krishna consciousness well, then we can all say, I'm not identified with my body because I'm practicing bhakti. This is action of the soul. It's not action of the body. Like you're eating prasadam, that means you're not identifying with the body, because you're offering it to Krishna first. So everything we do, we can say we're not identified with the body. And that's how we prevent detachment. Yes. And so, a lot of times, when Prabhupada is appealing to us to do something or to do some austerity, he's also appealing to us that you're not the body, therefore, that's why you should do it, or that's why you could do it. It's like in the second chapter of the Gita, Krishna is always talking about tolerance, be tolerant, right? So tolerance is somewhat connected with I'm not a physical being. I'm experiencing some suffering on the physical level, but I'm spiritual tolerant. There's an interesting example of this. There's one psychologist who has a Mayavadi guru, but anyway, he uses the philosophy of you're not the body in his counseling. So one lady was depressed, and he said, well, how long have you noticed this depression? And she said, 2 years. I've noticed 2 years. And he said, oh, how does the noticer feel about the depression? How long have you noticed the depression? What does that mean? You are distinct from that emotion, and you're noticing the emotion. Isn't that interesting? So I'm feeling depressed. Well, how long have you noticed it? 2 years. Well, how does the noticer feel about it? Interesting, isn't it? There's a method. It's called the Sedona method. Does anybody know about this? I don't know if it's popular. It was popular like 20 years ago, or something, or 30 or 40. It's so interesting. Would you like to hear about it?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you're awake. Raise your hand if you're sleeping. So it's a very simple method that a person developed for himself, and then he further developed it so he could teach it. When you're experiencing an emotion that you don't want to experience, he developed 3 questions. Would you be willing to let this go? Let's say you're upset about something. Well, let's say you're just feeling something, you don't want to feel it. So he would ask himself 3 questions. Would you be willing to drop this, let this go? Could you? So if the answer is yes, the next question is could you? And if the answer is yes, the next question is when? Would you be willing to let this go? Like, let's say you're angry, and I say, would you be willing to drop it? Okay. Could you? Yeah, I guess. When? Could you do it now? Well, theoretically you could, right? So they give the example. Someone have a pen? I can borrow. I'll give it back to you in 2 minutes. Thank you. They give the example that an emotion is like this. You hold on to it, right? And you can drop it. So if I can drop an emotion, it means I'm not the emotion. It means I'm the observer of the emotion. I experience it, but I, as the soul, am not the emotion. And when I just had a recording of this. Someone gave it to me, that recording, and I listened to it, and I thought, well, this is really interesting, because this is a kind of emotional detachment, where you, instead of letting go of something material, gross material, matter, you let go of something subtle, an emotion or thought. And obviously that's based on understanding that I, as the soul, am not that emotion, I'm just observing it. And sometimes, in some forms of psychology, they teach people, when they're angry, to not scream or anything, and just say, I feel angry right now. Just to identify the feeling. It's not me, and I'm not to be controlled by it. It's not easy, of course, especially if you're really angry, if you're really upset. But that's an implication of understanding I'm not the body, isn't it? Like, I'm feeling something, but that feeling is not me. And then I have a thought, right? And you ever identify with a thought, like, I want this? It's just a thought. And once you say, I want it, you're like scrolling Amazon, and like, you're drooling, like, I have to have this, and I have to get it delivered, Prime, extra money, I have to have it tonight. What's that all about? That's just the mind dictating. But we're not the mind. It's just a thought. So in theory, you could drop the thought, right? Isn't it? You could, couldn't you? It's possible, yeah. So I am not the emotion, I am not the thought. I am the soul who's observing the thought and observing the emotion. Not so easy to realize. You want to know why? I will tell you why. Because we identify with the emotion and we identify with the thought. Because we think we are the emotion and the thought, and therefore when we think something, we think it's absolutely true, we'll fight for it. When that thought says you need this, we think I need it, I have to have it. Have you ever had to have something you didn't really need, but you just had to have it? That's a thought. That's all it is. So there's a saying, don't believe everything you feel, and don't believe everything you think, because you are not that thought, and you are not that feeling. Most people identify with the body, or they identify with the mind, and so the mind tells you, I am you. If you think you're the mind, then whatever the mind says, you will think that's you speaking, and you will do it. Right? Does that make sense to you? If I think I'm the mind, then whatever it says, I think that's me talking. Right? You want this. Oh, I want this. This will make you happy. Oh, this will make me happy. It's just the mind speaking, it's not us, spirit, soul. And we're observing it. And that's the problem with being able to control the mind and emotions. It's as soon as you identify with the mind or the emotion, then you think, I am that. I am anger. we say, I'm angry. You're not angry. You're not angry. You are feeling angry. It's the wrong language. Because we know, Prabhu, you're not angry. You're spirit soul. You didn't transform into anger. You're still spirit soul. You're feeling angry. And so if you say, I'm feeling this, or I have this thought, then you're not identified as the thought or the emotion. Does that make sense? So language is interesting. I am feeling this. I am thinking this. That means I am different from the thinking and I am different from the feeling. And we're in trouble when we identify with the feeling and the thought. And that's identification with the body. Isn't it? Are you anger? Are you jealousy? Are you envy? No, I'm feeling envious. I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling.
Is that a form of I'm thinking that I have a thought? Or
Yeah, I have a thought. I am not the thought, I have a thought. I am not the feeling, I have a feeling. I am thinking, I am feeling. There's always an awareness that I is different than the feeling.
But we are identifying ourselves with the thoughts, so that's where, well, it's not, for example, if I feel angry, so I'm identifying with myself as angry person. It means that I cannot distinguish myself from this feeling, so I just,
well, that's, exactly.
In this state.
The exact problem is I've identified either with the mind or the emotion. And so I am that. And so I become that thought and I become that emotion. That's the problem.
So how to distinguish myself?
The mind, well, let's try to understand philosophically first. The mind has stolen our identity. So the mind says, I am you. Once the mind says, I am you, how do you control it? The only way you can control your mind is to understand that I am different from it. And whatever the mind says, I don't have to follow it. I mean, that's easier to say than do. But philosophically speaking, or psychologically speaking, whatever your mind says, you don't have to do because it's just a thought. It's just an energy in your mind. And so that's what we have to start understanding, that whatever the mind says, I as spirit soul decide. I am the one who decides, not the mind and not the emotion. But when I identify with the mind or the emotion, they decide. So like Krishna says, attraction and repulsion are the things that push everybody around. We're pushed around by what we're attracted to, and we're pushed around by what we don't like. Right? So attraction and repulsion will push you around if you don't make decisions yourself on what you're going to want to do. Because these forces, the modes of nature, will push you around if you identify with them. So, spirit soul is what? It's independent. We, Jiva Tattva, can make choices. We all made a choice to come into Vrindavan. You can leave this class, you can go to the restaurant, you do so many things. We all have that independence. Yes?
yes.
Yes?
Yes.
How do we get that independence? It's because we're spirit soul. So the significance of realizing that I am spirit soul is realizing that I am above the body, above the mind, above the intelligence, and I can make decisions against whatever the mind, body, and emotions are saying. I can, in theory. Not that I can actually do it all the time, but theoretically I can, right? And so if I allow myself to identify with those emotions or mind, then I can't, because there's no me anymore. It's just I am that emotion. You understand? If I think I'm the emotion or the thought, there's no me to control it anymore. But if I think I'm observing this emotion and thought, and I can decide against whatever it says, that means I'm identifying myself as a soul.
So is soul consciousness, intelligence, or is it like a separate entity that's by itself?
Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Intelligence is the material, subtle material. Intelligence can function without consciousness. But you know, if we were realized that nothing material could control us, because we would realize we're beyond matter. It's only when you identify with matter. Have you ever been really hungry and all you can identify with is all you can think about is your stomach, basically, or you're really tired, all you can think about is a bed. So when we're that identified with the body, then we have very little control. But when we're identified with the soul, then we understand, if I'm spirit soul, if I'm consciousness, if I'm transcendental, then it's not that the mind decides or the emotions decide. It's at least theoretically, I can decide. Here's an example. Think of a purple elephant. And this purple elephant has pink Converse tennis shoes, 2 pairs, so he's got 4 legs. And he's got a New York Yankees pink hat, and he's got a gold cross and Ray-Ban sunglasses. You got the picture? And he's dancing. And he's rapping. He's doing his rap, or keeping the beat, right? So I just planted a thought in your mind. A purple elephant with pink shoes and a pink hat and a gold chain and sunglasses. I planted that thought. Why did I plant that thought in your mind? Just to prove that you're a spirit soul and you're above the mind. If you could just plant a thought in your mind. If you were the mind, how could you do that? The mind would have to. You'd have no control. It's just the mind that decides. Isn't that interesting? If you're the mind, you're like, there's no karma because the mind just decides everything. You don't have independent will. But because we have independent will, because we're the soul, there's karma. We're responsible. You ever have a thought you don't want to have? Of course. Right? What do you do about it? Sometimes nothing. Sometimes you identify with that thought, and that thought overtakes you. Maybe you can remember at that time the purple elephant with the pink Converse tennis shoes and the pink New York Yankees. Maybe you could think, oh, I don't have to think like this. I could think differently. Because I'm the soul, I can put a different thought in my mind because I'm above the mind. But when you identify with the mind, you're not above the mind anymore. The mind is overtaking you because you've forgotten your spirit soul. Isn't that interesting? So that's one of the big significances of realizing we're not the body. That we can make decisions against how we feel and against what the mind thinks if we decide to. I don't want to feel this way. How do you want to feel? Could I feel differently? Yeah, I could. You might say, how could I feel differently? Sometimes what is taught, if you want to feel differently, just sit differently or stand differently. Want to do an experiment? Okay. I'd like you to go like this and look up, like you're proud as those peacocks out there. And just look up like this, like you're God's gift to the universe. And you're better than everybody. Stick your nose in. Your lips down. How do you feel? I feel normal, Prabhu. I always feel like this. Now go like this. Go like this. Just go like that. How do you feel? A little more humble, right? And all we did was change physiology. Isn't that interesting? So you can change. If we want to change, we don't know how to change, but because we are above the emotions, we can do something physical to change how we feel. Because we have that ability. We're not bound to feel a certain way. I learned this. And so one time when my daughter was very young and she was upset about something, my wife just gave it to me, said, I can't pacify it, you pacify it. And I learned this is what is called state change. That if you do something, you could change somebody's state by doing something wild. Like let's say you were really angry. Here's $1 million. But that changed your state, probably, right? Just like, yeah. And it's like in a minute later, you'd be laughing. So you definitely change your state quite quickly. So my daughter was really upset my wife couldn't do anything, and I learned about state change, and sometimes you just have to do something crazy to change it. So I said to my daughter, I said, Raja, do you want to get some sour cream out of the refrigerator and put it all over my face and my head? And she said, yeah. And she did it. She had so much fun. She made the change. Just like that. So you can change your state like that. Like you go to a kirtan and you're like, I hate all the girls, I hate it. It's hard to be like miserable and dancing at the same time, isn't it? So, sometimes you want to change your state, you just have to change your physiology. You know, like, okay, I'm just gonna run, or I'm just gonna jump or something, because it will change it. So you have the will to do that. You can make that decision. You're not bound by your emotions. Sometimes people have addictions and they can't overcome the program that will help them. So at least they can do that. They can make that. Their will is like so overcome by Tamagun, but at least they have the independence to make a choice. I will join this program, and the program will help them. Right? Yeah, it's true. Because addiction means you have no willpower, but you could put yourself in a situation to get healed from it if you make that choice. So, I'm not the body means I can decide. That's your mantra for today. I decide. You can go in the prasadam room and decide to overeat, undereat, or eat